Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of Towel Talk with Tim, the TechTV Towel. I'm Tim. I'm your host. This is my show, Towel Talk. Anyway, so we're here with Leo Laporte. Leo, hello. How are you doing? Talk to me.
Hi, Tim. It's great. It's great to be here, Tim, and I'm looking forward to this.
So you live on a farm.
I do. I live on to call it a farm is a little grandiose. If somebody's really a farmer and this is not a farm. And I'm not even a gentleman. It's 2 acres in the country, in the wine country, Northern California. And, we have livestock.
How many?
I have 2 sheep and 2 goats, 2 cats. It's kind of like it's not a farm, it's Noah's Ark. I have 2 of everything, two kids. We had 2 guinea pigs, but they got it. And we had 1 rabbit, and it got it. It's a tough life on the farm. We have a lot of predator birds, a lot of raptors, and we had a cute little bunny, Johnny Wallet. And he had lived with us in the house, before, like as a pet in a cage, and he was safe in the backyard. And we moved to the country, we thought, it'll be really nice. He's going to be really happy. 2 acres of rolling hills. And he was. For the first day, he was so happy. But then the second day, it all ended. And all that was left was we got a little jawbone and a little puff tail. That was it. That's very sad. We didn't have to bury him, though, so that was the good side.
Well, yeah, that's a relief. That's nice to hear.
So we have 2 goats, 2 sheep. The goats, they live in a pen. We have a nice big pen. It's like 60 feet by 60 feet. I mean, it's huge. This thing is bigger than my house, literally. I mean, it's a big pasture for them. And it has trees. We bought a little plastic house. I think it's like one of those kids' playhouses, but they love it. The goats don't know. And both of them are really more like pets because we got them as babies. The goats we got and bottle fed them from little babies, little alpine goats. So they think they're really in the family. And actually, that's kind of the problem with the goats. We have to leave them in the pen because when they get out, they come in the house, they lie down in my kids' beds, they want to spend the night. We'll go in there, he'll be in the bathtub and stuff. So we have to keep them in the pen. The sheep are different. Sheep are very passive and docile. We got them from a neighbor who is a real farmer who has hundreds of sheep. And these 2 sheep last spring were what they call bummers. There were twins of different mothers, and the twin in both cases was getting fed, but they weren't. So we took them and we started bottle feeding them, and they were really doing badly. We actually had one of them was on death's door. We called the vet. I'm trying to feed the sheep, and it's just like, I don't want to eat. I'm depressed. It seemed really depressed. So we called the vet, and she said, it's good you got me. In an hour, this sheep would be dead. And we actually, the vet put a catheter into the sheep's neck, and we were giving it saline, Ringer solution, every few hours to hydrate it. This was for like weeks, this went on. And then every 2 hours, we had to give it antibiotic injections. And my wife, she had this syringe. She got good at it, and she was so good, she gave the other one the injections too, so that way everybody's healthy. And she was trying to inject me. She was just going around, anybody want antibiotics? I got antibiotics here. And the sheep survived. They thrived. They're in great shape. They're really happy.
So did the goats, they're like natural lawnmowers? I hear they like to eat that grass.
It works great. Well, it doesn't. 2 is not enough for 2 acres. You need, I'm thinking at least 6. So this spring we'll probably get 4 more and see. But it's so cute because they wander around, and you'll go out you'll go around a corner and there's a sheep there, and they're really adorable and they're very sweet and they're used to us. So they're not skittish, and you can pat them and everything. We don't bathe them though. I think we should bathe them.
So you didn't study computers at college?
When I was in college, you could study computers, but it was not the same thing we know. It was big computers. I was in college in the mid-'70s, so they didn't have personal computers. So I was no interest.
You studied Chinese.
I studied Chinese. I thought that would be the best avenue to getting a computer television show. And as it turns out, I was exactly right. So I knew what I was doing even then.
But, where does tech stuff come from? Have you always been interested in tech? Was your mother interested in tech? Did she tell you about tech? What's the story?
What happened, I had a roommate, or actually he was a guy who worked at the campus radio station, because that's when I fell in love with broadcasting, was in college. And he was building a computer, and I thought, yeah, well, 2K memory, ooh. But I thought that's kind of interesting. And I always had an interest in, I played chess, and I always had an interest in electronics and stuff. And when you could get a computer, I did pretty early on. And the first computer I had was a North Star Advantage. Actually, I convinced, it was huge, it was like 10 grand. So I convinced work to buy it. I said, oh yeah, I can really use this. And it had a 5 megabyte hard drive and 64 kilobytes of RAM, CPM computer. It's a really nice computer. It actually looked like an iMac. It was an all-in-one computer.
What year was this? This was like 1746.
That would have been 78 or 9. And that was great. Loved that. And learned how to program that in BASIC. North Star had a very good BASIC. And I wrote a lot of software for the radio station to analyze, record charts and stuff.
So you just jumped into it for fun. You didn't even know what you were doing. You were just having fun, but it was right there.
Well, and then it was also video games. Games were what got me started. And I had an Atari 2600 and played that. And then I said, oh, I could probably get better games if I got an Atari 400, which was their little computer, kind of their clone of the Apple. And then, but it had a membrane flat keyboard, and I got really tired of typing in programs. So then the 800 had keyboards, and it was after that it was like I started writing articles for Atari magazines and stuff like that. And I got my first PC probably in '81 or '82, very early on. It wasn't an IBM. I think actually, I don't really remember. Maybe it was an IBM. I know I got an Eagle PC. That must have been '83 or '84. They were a clone maker. And we did some sort of trade. And I ran my bulletin board in '84 to '88 on the Eagle PC. But I got my first Mac when like 3 days after it came out, because I remember looking at the Lisa and saying, this is really cool, but it's $10,000.
$10,000. Whoa.
Yeah, the first Lisa was really expensive, and I couldn't convince the boss to buy a Lisa.
Where were you working where they're buying you all this crazy crap?
That first one was at a radio station, Clock, KLOK AM in San Jose. And then by the time the Lisa I remember looking at when I was still at Clock in San Jose, but I was in San Francisco working on radio in San Francisco when the Mac came out in '84, and I remember going down to Macy's with my Macy's charge card to buy the Mac.
And what kind of radio was this? Was this, hip-hop? Was this a hip-hop radio station, huh?
At first radio was a DJ. And then later I did talk radio, and I started doing talk radio about '87. And that was a good move. But at the same time, there was this parallel track of writing for computer magazines, writing software, running a BBS. And all of, that was my passion too. I really loved that stuff. And the writing stuff was just to support my habit, so I can get free software and stuff, because it was, it's expensive. So that started becoming a parallel track for me, career track for me.
And what kind of talk radio? Rush Limbaugh, is that what we're talking about? Crazy Rush Limbaugh?
I was just general talk, political talk, news talk, that kind of thing. I did more, I really didn't like news talk because I don't like controversy, so I really did more celebrities and culture stuff. I would talk to, basically it was a great job because anybody who came to town that I was interested in, I would talk to, everybody from, I'll never forget, I had an hour with John, and I did hour-long interviews too, I had an hour with John Cleese of Monty Python, in which he said, oh, well, I could explain how comedy works, but nobody would be interested in that. And I said, I think we would. Tell us. And he spent an hour saying how comedy works. This is like sitting at the foot of the master. It was amazing. Walter Cronkite, another guy I'll never forget, spent an hour with him. So I tended to do the people I was interested in, and it wasn't newsmakers always. It was a lot of authors, a lot of people doing interesting things. And one of the guys I had on, and I liked to have on a lot, was John C. Dvorak, because he would talk about technology, and I was very interested. And after a while, we said, he and I hit it off, and we decided to do a computer talk show on the weekends. And that was kind of how I started to actually merge these two career tracks and take the stuff I was doing as my hobby and make it work for me. And that was really great. And actually by 87 I was all talk, and by 91 I was pretty much, I was doing specialty talk, but it was mostly computers. And by 94 I was only doing computers.
Now, how did you make this transition from radio to TV? Because I could never do it, I was stuck in radio for 56 years, I was talking. It was a little station outside of Tucson. We had a broadcast radius of 13 feet. Me and the prairie dogs. We had a really good time. So how'd you do it? How'd you make the leap?
I got out of radio to work for Ziff Davis, the big computer magazine publisher, in '94. They were doing a show on that they were buying time for on CNBC and Lifetime, Sci-Fi, a bunch of television networks. They even then wanted to do a computer television network, but they thought, well, we'll start with a show. And they did a show called A Personal Computing Show, and that starred Gina Smith and Jim Louderback. And then I was going to do a news show, half-hour newscast. And they never got the news show off the air. And so poor Jim, they say, well, we're not doing anything with Leo. Jim, just you do something else. And they put me with Gina for the remainder of the season.
So Jim, does he hates you for life?
I'm sorry, Jim. But I had nothing to do with it. You know, it's funny because a few years ago, Jim and I were talking at a Christmas party. He said, boy, I never, you took that show away from me. It really hurt me. I said, it wasn't me, Jim. He said, no, you didn't want it. I said, no, I had a half-hour news show. I didn't want that show.